We have a guest joining us in studio. Lauren Bostrom is with us from Tripp Family Medicine. She's a physician assistant, and we'll be chatting with her for the next half hour or so. If you've got a question, comment about the subject or medical issue, feel free to give us a call at 208-736-0300. We should point out Tripp Family Medicine is located on Fillmore Street in Twin Falls, directly across from the main post office. We should also point out the doctor's office is still looking for new patients. As a patient of Dr. Tripp and the staff, they can generally being the operative word, I'm told, see someone on
Yeah.
the same day if they call in the morning with a
Yeah,
medical
for the
issue.
most part, we get people in at least within the 48 hours,
Right.
typically.
And that's a lot faster than the assembly line medicine we see some other places. Well, we're talking today. We were just joking off air about how we had a day almost like summer yesterday. It was some places were close to 70, I'm sure, and it was just beautiful. And so people are probably starting to think, okay, I got to fit into that bathing suit. There are a lot of things are starting to run through their mind. The cabin fever is coming to an end. This is the time of year. If you're going to fit into that bathing suit, though, to maybe put down the donuts
It,
and think about a
yeah.
few changes in lifestyle.
And it is. And one of the things I'm going to piggyback off of is a little bit of what Dr. Tripp talked about last week is
Sure.
limiting that screen time. And now the question is, what do we do with that extra time we have? And a lot of us fall back on this crash diet. And if you're like most people, according to the research, you do that diet for a period of time. It doesn't last all year. And by the end of the year, you've gained back over half to a third, is what research shows of the weight that you lost. So one of the things I want to talk about is maybe some lifestyle changes that are maybe more sustainable things that we can do,
Sure.
and involve using more of our time to better ourselves and take time to appreciate some of the important things of life too. One of the things I'm going to spend most of my time on is something called mindful eating, and this is a topic that I bring up because I've had two friends who struggled with two different types of eating disorders on opposite ends of the spectrum. And both of them have found this technique to help bring them back to a healthy
One would
weight.
be like almost like bulimia, and the other ate too much. Then, right?
Exactly. So I had a friend who struggled with anorexia, and then one who was overweight and struggling to find a way to get down to a healthy weight. She was really concerned because she was hoping to start a family, and she wanted to have a healthy pregnancy. She wanted to be around for her kids. And both of them found that they had an unhealthy relationship with food. So I'm going to walk through 8 steps that they have found to help with mindful eating. And one of the big things is appreciating the food in front of us and the purpose of why we eat. We live in a very, very busy lifestyle, and a lot of us eat without even thinking. We're usually doing work at the same time that we're eating, watching TV.
Sure.
There's not a lot of processing, same as when we use our cell phones. A lot of times we're not really thinking about why am I on this phone right now? What am I looking for? What's the purpose of me being on my phone right now?
There's a
And
lot of times too. Someone just they're sitting now watching TV and they think, "Oh, peanuts would taste good right now." And they grab a few salty peanuts, and maybe if they thought about it and put a little thought into it first, sometimes I think they're not even aware too often that they're just grabbing them and eating them.
exactly. And so one of the first steps of mindful eating is your shopping list when you go to the grocery
Uh-huh.
store. Having that list and going through and sticking to that list, not walking down the grocery store aisle and finding things that, oh, that looks good, and adding it to the shopping cart, having a purpose of this is the meal that I'm planning on cooking. This is what I think is going to be a good nutrition for my body. And that part is maybe more common sense. And a lot of this might seem common sense, but it's something that if you think about how you eat, most of us are not doing. The second one is trying to get to the table when you're actually hungry. You don't want to be starving because if you get to the table there, I think we've all been there where you look for anything to shove into that stomach. Doesn't matter what it is. And
Second scoop of mashed potatoes.
exactly, we tend to overeat. But being a little bit hungry is important because otherwise, you're telling your body it's okay to eat when maybe I don't actually need that food right now.
Should you eat a little more slowly too?
Eating slowly is another key point on this. So, and part of it is I did a exercise with a psychologist one time that I worked with, and he had us eat an almond as a group. And what he had us do was put the almond in your mouth, and for a second there, you think of the nutrition that almond's giving you. appreciate the taste of it,
Hmm.
appreciate all the energy you'll get from it. And then the other second step is to chew it slowly and appreciate the flavor of food. It not only makes you go, this is empowering my body, but it's telling your brain, I'm eating food right now. I'm taking a longer time to eat it. It gives my mind some time and my stomach to say, hey, I'm getting full. Maybe I don't need to go grab again that second scoop of mashed potatoes. So, and it's an interesting one because I didn't think I could appreciate an almond so much, but you actually can.
We're going to take a short break. We've got more coming up with Lauren Bostrom. She is here from Tripp Family Medicine in Twin Falls. We're at 40 right now, and we're coming up on 8:40. Bill Colley answering the telephones this morning, too, on Better Health with Tripp Family Medicine. Should point out, too, if you've got a question or comment for us in the next segment, I'll get these words out. I've just been up since 3 o'clock this morning. I should be able to do this. 208-7360, and I did it the day before, 208-736-0300. Joining us in the studio this half hour is Lauren Bostrom. She is with Tripp Family Medicine. She's a physician assistant. It's 8:42, and we're at 40. Bill Colley with you as well, and we're talking about eating healthy. Healthily, I think is the actual word.
And I'm using the term mindful eating. If you start looking on the internet, that's what you'll find a lot of research on this topic, and it's
Putting
more
your head
about
into it.
yeah, putting your mind to it and putting the time into eating and appreciating it. And one of the things we were talking about over the break was the environment that we're eating in. And one thing that can help promote slower eating is eating with other people. As if you're talking with someone, you're going to eat a little bit slower.
Hmm.
But the trick to this too is at with mindful eating, you're also at the same time needing to engage with your food too, in a sense, and appreciate um, what the food is in front of you. So when you're out to eat, we tend to make less healthy choices, and it's when you're looking at the food in front of you, looking at the nutrition content, and going, "Why am I putting this into my mouth right now?" It helps us be able to eat in portion sizes that are appropriate for us, and also a lot of times make healthier choices. The other thing is cooking your food because you give a better sense of this is something that I've
Hmm.
prepared and put some effort into. I maybe don't want to just gobble it and appreciate and eat it in less time than it took me to make it. And so that's another pointer that they have for people. Um, Going back to a couple of my friends who have used this technique to help with their issues. I had one friend who just struggled with food in the sense that she didn't want to eat it. She struggled with anorexia for a long time. And she was able to combat that fear of eating by being able to sit and look at her food and say, I need this to give nutrition to my body. Um, the food that I'm eating is needed for me to have muscles. It's needed for my brain. It's needed for me to stay around here and be able to partake in the life events that I want. For my other friend, she really struggled with emotional eating in the sense that she often was eating because she was really depressed to distract her brain. And so she was able to start looking at what she was eating and say that this food is maybe not what I need to eat right now. How can I cope with what I'm feeling right now? How do I deal with the underlying issue? Which for her was a lot of depression and anxiety. And so when she was able to kind of stop herself and say, this isn't my way to cope with what I'm dealing with, she found that she wasn't binge eating as much as she was, and she was able to get to the goal weight that she wanted to get to.
And Lauren has a phone call. We're at 8:45, and caller, you're up next with Better Health with Tripp Family Medicine. Go ahead.
Yes, I was wondering what her opinion is on supplementing one's diet with a multivitamin or other additives that you can buy over the counter. I'll take my answer off here. Thank you.
So as far as adding dietary supplements, you have to be careful because there's a lot of different ones out there. Some of them have stimulants in there. Multivitamins, I don't have a lot of concern about. Most of us don't get the needed nutrition in the American diet. But when it comes to dietary supplements, there are some that do have stimulants in there, so you need to look and see because those have significant risk as far as blood pressure and heart risk. Um, Things like protein shakes in general are usually not harmful and can be filling, but um, it's also one of our ways as far as doing a protein shake, I do that often because I find during lunchtime I don't have a lot of time sometimes because I'm between patients. And it does kind of make it a little bit mindless, I'll be honest. I tell my coworkers that too. But I know what I'm putting in there is not junk food and fries, and it keeps me from going to Jimmy John's every day and eating a bunch of potato chips or something that's quick.
Well, of course, you mentioned cooking earlier. You don't mean microwave oven where you dump the hot pocket in there and heat it up.
That is my mom's definition of cooking sometimes, but in general, if you look at the packages, most of those have pretty high saturated fat content, and we just don't then put the time into it to appreciate what we have in front of
Mhm.
us, and food just becomes a really easy access tool, like cell phones have to us and many other things in life, and we tend to develop unhealthy eating habits from
Right?
doing that.
You had some other things you wanted to hit on too this morning as well.
I do. So I'm going to move a little bit away from the mindful eating, and
Sure.
I want to talk a little bit about exercise. This is something I run into a lot in the clinic, and I think we all run into in our lives because we all have really busy schedules. And often we go, well, a 10 minutes of exercise, that's not enough time to make a big difference. And the truth is that they've done studies in Sweden, and this was a group of 800 people, and they studied closely different lifestyles, and they found that people who, uh, compared to someone who sat around for 30 minutes in a time frame, 10 minutes of doing even just housework chores, getting up and moving, reduced heart risk by about 30%. And that's a pretty significant deal. So um, I think a lot of our publicity in society tells our brains that if you're not going to work out hard, if you're not going to sweat, don't bother. And the truth is, if moving is calories, and moving is going to help lose that weight loss. So I encourage people to, when you find yourself thinking, oh, I don't have enough time to do anything to to exercise to help my health, get yourself moving. And if it's you're watching TV, a commercial break, putting time in to just do something different besides watch those commercials that you really probably don't care about, um, you'll find that it does add up in time, as far as health, and maybe you don't see it on the scale, but your heart's thanking you.
Well, I had a couple of friends. One of them had been a computer programmer and moved to a small town and realized there weren't many computer programmer jobs. Needed to find a job. She created one. She started a house cleaning service. Then she hired one of her friends. The two of them were in tremendous condition because they were constantly on the move cleaning houses. That's the thing is that from a calorie perspective, it really burns off a lot of calories. And they were up and down stairways, and there's all of that. You're scrubbing and all this stuff. It's a pretty good workout.
It is, and so a lot of people, you'd be surprised if you wore a pedometer and saw how much you move when you clean the house, and you're getting two things done at once. As far as recommendations for exercise right now, the current recommendations are at least 150 minutes of vigorous, moderate to vigorous activity a week. They say in at least 10-minute intervals. So doing a minute here or there doesn't quite add up, but 10 minutes at a time, finding that in your day can make that goal seem a little bit more realistic.
Does it also help? We talked earlier about maybe eating with somebody else gives you time to interact with them, so you might be eating less. If you can find someone, for instance, I used to have a neighbor when I'd get home from work, we'd go walk every night. That there are these options because sometimes just walking alone can be a little on the boring side. But if you got someone you can have a conversation with, you're not even aware after half an hour that you've walked quite a distance.
Yeah, and so things that you can add in to make exercise more enjoyable, including socializing, is a big important as far as overall wellness. They've done studies, people who socialize live longer. And so if you can socialize and exercise, you're really adding into that benefit. And you also find yourself having an accountability buddy that keeps you from finding those excuses we can find to not do what we know we probably should do. And then at the end of the day, feel a little bit guilty that we didn't do those activities that we set our mind to.
Now, we haven't gotten through all eight of these yet, have we? I think we're
Well,
through five, maybe six.
so well, there's an 8 step. I'm going to kind of quickly kind of summarize the 8 step
Sure.
mindful eating, which again was doing the shopping list, eating when you're hungry, limiting the size of your plate, appreciating the food on the table, and focusing on the food in front of you and how it provides nutrition to your body, and taking small bites, whether that means chewing 20 to 30 times, although that gives your friend some time to talk
Right,
with you so
right.
you don't overdo the conversation, right? So you can chew, but it can be a little bit more difficult doing the chewing piece if you're eating with other people. But overall, the benefits of being with someone else tends to outweigh that. And enjoying the flavor of everything you have in front of you. And I think the biggest thing is eating slowly and realizing why you're eating. Is it because I'm actually hungry? Is it because I actually need to eat this food in front of me, or is it because I'm feeling maybe sad or depressed? And food does give us kind of a sense of endorphins that can make us temporarily feel better, but overall, for a lot of people, that ends up going down a road that they don't want to go down.
I think we haven't mentioned physiology because I remember the doctor telling me one time he held his fist out for me and said, see that? That's about the size of a bowl of rice. Because I was mentioned I had a fondness for eating rice. He said, so that's about the size of a bowl of rice. He said, imagine that this fist is a bowl of sugar. And he said, your body treats that rice like it's a great big bowl of sugar. And yet I have a coworker, Nate, who can eat anything under the sun and as thin as a rail. His wife chews him out because she said he doesn't eat enough vegetables. But I also noticed too, though, even when he's around the office, he does everything at a quick step. He's on the move and he's really rolling along. But at the moment, it seems he can eat anything that anyone puts down in front of him, and he's thin as a rail and good looks to be in good condition. Uh, so there can be differences in those physiologies.
There is. So all of our metabolisms are different. They've A lot of it can depend on our genetics, including what kind. I mean, we find this even with exercise capabilities. We all have different amounts of muscle fibers, some that are fast twitch or slow twitch. That makes some of us better endurance runners versus some of us who are better sprinters. And that all can play a role into it. So one of the frustrating things is starting to get into the comparison table between people, and I try to encourage people that your weight loss journey is very much your personal journey. And even if your friend maybe is a size zero, but and doesn't eat well, they can still have some internal things going on, including I've had patients who are very tiny, but they haven't eaten the best, and they've now have fatty liver disease and have liver problems. So just outside appearances doesn't mean health all the time either.
Well, you referenced just differences in muscle. I was the slowest guy on my football team, but I could move the blocking sled better than anyone else. So, there were the differences there. So obviously, I was given a position as a lineman. I didn't get to be a receiver. Not that it bothered me, but that is true. That different types of people that we're dealing with out there. I read this story. Oh gosh, about a week ago, about the television talking head Al Sharpton, and it said that he is half the weight he used to be. But he gets up in the morning and he has basically half a banana and maybe a slice of apple, and that's the only thing he eats all day. And he drinks green tea for his lunch and dinner, and that was because he couldn't apparently look at food without gaining weight. And his metabolism was wound to the point that he has to go through this strict regimen of barely eating anything during the course of a day.
And there's some people who can get away with, I mean, I would consider that on the list of almost crash dieting, and maybe not necessarily the healthiest way to go about losing weight. And some people can consistently do that, but research shows the majority of us are struggling. So I'm reaching out to our listeners who've been there, who've been through this crash diet, or maybe the idea of going on a diet and maybe that diet never materializes as well. But there's a lot of important nutrients that he's probably missing out with that diet, that might affect him long term. With limiting diet, we can see things like iron deficiency, loss of important vitamin, minerals, and electrolytes, including things like calcium. And if your calcium levels get too low or even too high, that can lead to serious heart conditions too.
Now, anything else? We've got about 2 minutes to go that you need to touch on.
Oh, I was going to real quick talk about finding a hobby with our lack of screen time. They had a list of 5 top hobbies that um, have been proven to be good ones to pick up for a healthy lifestyle. Though really any hobby, if you're doing one right now, think of how you might be able to use it to kind of
Hmm.
better benefit your health and lifestyle. So I'm going to go through them quickly. So dancing, obviously cardio and balance are benefits. Gardening is a big one because it improves flexibility. Also tend to be moving a lot. Writing, not so much the movement part, but seems to help with stress as well as sleep for a lot of people. Pets are on here, so your pet can be a hobby because they tend to keep you busy and moving. And music has been found to reduce stress and cortisol levels. And cortisol is something that we produce when we have a lot of stress, and can also hinder our weight loss journey when we're going down that road too.
Now we've got to ask a quick question. Has the peel party happened?
It is happening tonight. So I'm not sure how many slots we still have open, but if you are interested, I would call 933 4400. There's a big peel package with over $300 worth of merchandise for the cost of $100. And if you bring 3 friends, that cost might be nothing to you as well.
Very
So
good. And again, that's the telephone number at the office, but also they can go to the website and check out the Facebook page if they have, well, any questions about Tripp Family Medicine and just some detail.
exactly. Our website is up and we have Facebook as well. And we have a lot of good other information on our website besides just about our practice and just health lifestyle tips in general.
And we should point out, too, still looking for new patients. That's a key here.
We are taking new patients all the time and we are happy to see new people come in and happy to have you be part of our family to help take care of you.
I was going to say, the day's going to come when Costco finds a new building and you'll have to move everything over there because of the growth.
Yeah, we are getting kind of big for our size, and so, but it's a good thing.
Well, we want to thank Lauren Bostrom for coming by this morning from Tripp Family Medicine here in Twin Falls. And we've got a short break. 9 o'clock news is just on the way. A lot to talk about. There's an interesting piece that I put together for our website yesterday on refugee resettlement and how we could be seeing in the United States a huge influx from one particular part of the world. We may be talking about that coming up in a few minutes on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and NewsRadio1310.com. We're at 39, and news from Fox is next at 9 o'clock.